My name is Lamont Woods, and welcome to a new show called The Economy of Bermuda. And today I have with me Mr. Robert Stewart, who has written a book called The Guide to the Economy of Bermuda. So I thought it was fitting that he would be the first guest to discuss the economy of Bermuda. Mr. Stewart, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Good, good. Tell me a bit about yourself, because many people may not know you, but many people may know you. So tell me a bit about yourself.
Okay, well, let's start at the beginning. I was born in Scotland. I came to Bermuda when I was just 21 as a policeman. I was a policeman for about just over 4 years, and then I went away and studied economics in UK. I came back and I was a teacher in Bermuda for about 2 years. I taught at the Bermuda College. I taught economics at the Bermuda College, and I also taught a bit of history as well. I decided that teaching was not as well paid as I thought it was, although the hours were good, and I left and I joined Shell as an accountant, and I ended up being the head of the Shell Group operations in Bermuda, and I did that for maybe 15 years or so before I retired. Then I went to work for a company called Old Mutual, an investment company, and I retired from that in 2002, I think. And since then, I've been, a man of leisure, doing the things I want to do, like playing golf and tennis and traveling. Although I did a lot of traveling when I was with Shell. And my interest has always been in economics, though I also have a law degree, which I took subsequently. And I was never really that fond of accounting, though I did an accounting qualification as well. But, all these things happened to give me an insight into how things work. And then I wrote my book about the economy of Bermuda. In the meantime, not only that, I've got 2 children. I played football for Bermuda. I've captained Bermuda, the football team, way before you were born, I'm sure. I also played squash for Bermuda. I was chairman of the Broadcasting Commissioners, been director of the Monetary Authority, vice chairman of the Bank of Butterfield, director of quite a number of companies, one way or another. So Bermuda, I think, has been very, very good to me. But the reason it's been very good to me, and this is an important one, is because in many ways I think I've been good to Bermuda as well, because I've provided lots of opportunities at Shell for young Bermudians to come up and learn things that they may not otherwise have learned. I've also written a book, and I've done all sorts of things. And the thing that always appalls me, in a sense, about the economic thoughts of Bermuda is that people always tend to regard somebody else's success at the expense of somebody else's failure. It's not that way. It's a system whereby if someone is successful, particularly in business, he has made the world successful, more successful than otherwise has been. So when we used to speak very casually in days gone by about the 40 thieves, that was really a wrong expression, because the 40 thieves, although they had many disreputable attributes, they created a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunities for Bermudians, which regrettably now are not as available as they once were. And people who actually follow their own self-interest, as Adam Smith mentioned a long, long time ago in 1776, by pursuing your own self-interest, you actually make the lives of other people that much better. Many, many people in Bermuda, including politicians, I might add, think that if somebody is successful, they've done it at the expense of somebody else. You actually make people better off. You build and you create a bigger cake for people to enjoy. You don't create a smaller cake. And this is one of the biggest single fallacies for the lack of success that Bermuda has experienced over the last, say, 10, 15 years.
Well, I mean, that's good insight, and I think it's a good time now to move into just recently. You're giving us a bit of history there. Just recently, there was a forum held with the Minister of Finance, Mr. Bob Richards. It was in front of some would call a hostile crowd at times. Just briefly, just give me your brief thoughts on that meeting and what you heard in the meeting.
Well, what I heard in the meeting was, I know Mr. Richards quite well because we worked together for a number of years. He actually laid it out for one of the few times I have heard this in Bermuda, that we cannot continue on our present course. If we continue on our present course, the ship will strike rocks and it will sink. We cannot borrow and spend our way out of the problems that Bermuda faces at present. We were, until maybe, say 2000, easy date to remember, we were one of the most successful economies in the world, probably the most successful that was ever created in the history of mankind. And this was a major achievement. It really was a major achievement. And somehow or other, in the last 10, 15 years, we have sort of tossed our successful mechanisms out the window, and we've followed a will-o'-the-wisp, nonsensical idea that if you spend and borrow, you can make the world a better place. It's just nonsense, absolute nonsense.
All right. Well, no, I was at the meeting as well, and and I had a bird's eye view, and I just want to. There's a few comments that were made from a bit of the people that were there, the audience questions. Well. Yes. So we were both there. So we both saw it firsthand. So it's not secondhand information here. But there's a few comments that came through strong from the particular audience that was there. So I just wanted you to just briefly. I'm gonna say a few of the quotes. And I just wanted you to briefly just give your take on it. The first one, which some find, I mean, it's a very emotional thing these days, and it was, don't sell our island, and don't sell the opportunities for our children. What do you think about that? The context of that comment?
Well, nonsensical was the best way to describe it. Everybody in Bermuda is an immigrant. There were no people in Bermuda when Bermuda was discovered. Everybody is an immigrant or a descendant from an immigrant. Some are more recent immigrants, like myself, although I've been here, 55 years or thereabouts. Other people are very recent immigrants, have been here maybe 4 or 5 years. But when I came to Bermuda, that was way before you were born. I am actually, in a sense, more Bermudian than you are because I've been here longer. But to say I'm more Bermudian than you are is a nonsense as well, because there's no such thing as a pure Bermudian. So when we speak about we're selling the island, we're not. You don't. You sell pieces of land, you sell buildings, you don't sell people, you sell items, cars, motorbikes, cameras, buildings. But you can buy them back again. I mean, they don't go forever. Now, if you really look at the other way around, I mean, Bermuda has always had a lot of its land sold to other people. I mean, the military bases, for example, took up a significant chunk of Bermuda's land in days gone by. It came back to Bermuda, particularly from the US military. But you have a look around the old Kinley Field base or the old naval operating base, and it's been neglected. It looks like a slum area. It's actually a disgrace from the very high standards that the military had put in place in the years gone by. The hotels are owned by foreign interests, but nobody thinks that this is a bad thing. We're trying to attract new hotels. So the idea that we're selling Bermuda is just nonsensical. You're selling things. I mean, I'll sell you my pair of shoes if the price is right, but you're not going to buy my pair of shoes, are you? Well, not yet anyway, because you're not that poor. But 20 years down the line, you might be want to buy my pair of shoes. Like, when I go to India and places like that, people come up and say they want to buy my shirt or they want to buy my watch or something, So it's a crazy notion. It doesn't stand up to any examination whatsoever.
All right, and we'll get more to that as we get into some of your concepts in the book that kind of explain a lot of that in terms of from an economical standpoint. The next thing I heard someone say, they said, cuts. We don't want to hear anything else about cuts. And how much can you actually cut away before you reach the point where, hey, we can't cut anymore and we're still in debt? So what do you think about that comment?
Okay. Bermuda is a unique place in that we do not make anything that we use on a day-to-day basis. We don't make chairs, we don't grow our own food, we don't manufacture our own cars. We do literally nothing. So everything we earn has to be at the, when we offer a service of one description or another to outsiders, foreigners. You either sell them on the beauty of Bermuda, they come here for a vacation, or we sell to them the commercial advantages of operating in Bermuda. That is what we sell. If we don't have a number of tourists and we don't have an international business and we don't have a couple of other things which create foreign income, we don't have any money. If we don't have any money, we don't have nice clothes to wear, we don't have cars to drive, we don't have television to watch, we don't have a whole bunch of things. And the key all the time in Bermuda is how do we sell ourselves to outsiders? Because without outside revenue, we have nothing. The Bermuda dollar, I was going to take a Bermuda dollar in my pocket, but I forgot my wallet. And I usually do this when I go to a bar, but I forgot my wallet. But if you look at a Bermuda, $20 bill, you got a picture of a frog on it. Now, if you took that frog and that picture to New York City or to London and said, hey, I'm going to pay for this beer I've had with this picture of a frog, people would look at you as if you were nuts. The Bermuda currency is only valuable in the sense that it's backed by a US dollar. And the US dollar is only worth so much because Americans can export and sell their products to other parts of the world. And the same is true of the British pound, the same is true of the euro, any other currency you care to name. So we have to earn income from outside Bermuda. There is no other way.
So do you say there is a bit of truth to this cuts? Is there something else that has to happen?
Well,
when you heard that statement,
the truth to cut comes from the fact we don't earn. And if you don't earn, you must cut because you have no money. If I went down to the store down the road here and bought a whole basket of groceries for next week and said, hey, I haven't got any money, but trust me, I'll come in next week and pay you. I mean, what's going to happen? The next thing you know, they're going to call the cops and I'm going to be, locked up somewhere for stealing food. Bermuda is in that position. You cannot go out to say to the rest of the world, hey, lend us some money and we'll pay it back next week, next year, maybe 20 years down the line. They ain't going to lend it. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen.
All right, let's move on to our next quote. And this was from the Minister of Finance, Mr. Bob Richards. And he started off, correct me if I'm wrong, he started off the presentation by saying that he referenced fuel. And he wasn't talking about oil, but he was talking about actually the money that fuels the economy. Yeah. And he said that this fuel has to come, we need this fuel, and this fuel is going to come from overseas. And some people have problems with this, but if you look at it from an economic standpoint, the fuel has always came from overseas.
We're a small speck of insignificant rock in the middle of the mid-Atlantic. And we enjoy a standard of living which is the envy of the rest of the world. But the reason we enjoy that standard of living is not because we're wonderful people or because God has smiled on us and made us rich. It's because we have earned it. We have earned it by selling the beauty of Bermuda to tourists, and we've earned it by selling the efficiency of Bermuda as a place to do business. In days gone by, we did it because we were in the middle of the North Atlantic, in a key position between Europe and the United States. The military wanted to be here because it was a communist threat from Russia and a few other places such as Cuba. And it was a great place for the military to operate. We don't have a threat from communism now. Communism has collapsed because it was an impossible social and economic system. It could never, ever work, and it collapsed. In days gone by, we used to produce lilies and onions and sell them to the United States as farm products. But nobody wants to farm these days. You go to a kid who's at school, who's 15 years old, and say, hey, we've got a great job for you. You can grow onions, and every day you've got to get up at 6 a.m. and plant them and water them, and then collect them, then put them in barrels and boxes and sell them to the United States. And for that, we're going to pay you something like $50 a week. This is a wonderful job. I mean, any 10-year-old is going to say, you must be nuts.
Yeah, you're right. And get on to my next comment before we go to a break. There was a lot of mention of paying consultants too much money and not really getting any results. I think that's a valid problem. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so do I. I agree. We waste a lot of money on consultants, and they produce, at the end of the day, nothing but a big bill. they leave Bermuda with a big smile on their faces saying, these dumb Bermudians paid us this whole bunch of money for doing nothing. I agree. Yeah, I could not agree more.
Well, I think that's a great place to take a break, and the economy of Bermuda will be back just after these messages.
Bermuda is in exactly the same position as British Leyland or British Motor Corporation. If it does not produce services that people want to buy, and these are foreigners, it will go out of business.